Hello, beautiful. And what I'd really like to know is what is good in your life today? I am Kia, and this is another episode of the Female Veterans Podcast. Today, I have with me someone extraordinary, but before I introduce her to you, I want to give a little shout out to a couple of important organizations, right? So we're going to start with the Barbara Giordano Foundation. This is a foundation that's really close to my heart. I work with them a lot. I will be doing some workshops for them coming up soon, probably in the spring. And this organization uses a holistic approach to help female veterans. So the work they do there is extraordinary. The women that you will meet in their activities, their workshops are extraordinary. And so I highly recommend you go and check them out. Okay. Another organization that I work with is Mental Health Code, who is sponsoring this episode. So go and follow Mental Health Code on Instagram. That's all. I'm not selling anything, but I'm sharing with you this resource and these resources to help you on your journey, on your healing journey, and along your path. So remember, you can listen to the Female Veterans Podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. And I'm also now streaming on Citizen Green TV. So you can go check me out there and support the podcast that way as well. So it has been a minute since I've been on here doing this podcast. And I have just recently recovered from some pretty serious health and financial issues as a result. And I'm back though. And I'm going to be gearing up to do more and more interviews with my beloved female veterans. So if you know one, send her my way. You can connect with me on all of the socials. I'm on TikTok. I think I have one video up there, but more are coming. But you can find me everywhere. This is all my social media information. So you can find the Female Veterans Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And I think I'm on X, but I'm not very active there. So I think that's everything that I needed to cover before I dive into this inspiring episode. So let me tell you about my guest. Okay. She is extraordinary. She has gone from a sailor to a CEO. And I love that kind of trajectory. Okay. 22 years in my beloved US Navy. Okay. Yes, she is a shipmate. And guess how excited I am to have her on here. You know how I get. I love you all. You know that. But you know how I am when the Navy is in the building. And so I am excited to have 22-year retired Navy veteran Lisa coming with me today to share her story. And I can't wait for you to hear it. So I'm going to bring her on. Hi, Lisa.
Hi everyone. I'm so excited to be on today. I really appreciate you taking your time, Kia, and getting me on here. And go Navy.
Go Navy. Oh, we just celebrated a birthday.
We sure did. Still looking good, right?
Looking really good in our dress whites.
Amen.
So tell me, I want to dive right into it. What made you join the military?
So, it's a long story. Basically, I was going to school and working and doing a lot of different things. And my brother and I decided, hey, we could get school paid for, we can go in and we could do a couple years and we're out, right? So went in, joined, had a good time, had a really good time. It was very motivating, inspiring, meeting women across the different genres, different platforms, different states, and different environments. So it was just amazing. He had gotten out and I decided to stay. And 9/11 happened, of course. And, that really brought the out. So initially went in for school and better way of life and to see the world a little bit, and decided to stay because I had shipmates that needed me, and it felt like the right thing to do. I was trying to get out several times. I just never got around to it. I really I just enjoyed my time. I really did, and it's been a blessing in more ways than I can imagine.
I can't tell you how many times I thought to myself, especially as my peers started to retire,
Hmm.
maybe I should have stayed in. Like, and some of these stories, like yours, for example, that I hear on this podcast are so amazing that I'm like, well, if I had known that or this or that, maybe I would have stayed in. So it's interesting to hear you say you just never got around to getting out.
Well, I was having a good time. I had great deployments. I had great mentors. I had great leadership, and not everyone was lucky as I am.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the inspiration. I had a lot of strong women in my life that told me I can move forward, I could get into leadership. I was always that person that was very conservative, introverted, and they brought out the best in me. So not everyone was lucky as I am, and was stationed in diverse environments and get to thrive. And I worked a lot in aviation, so I had a lot of females, believe it or not, that was mechs and maintenance, and I learned from them. They inspire me.
That is amazing, right? Because really,
Right.
at the time that you were going in, I was in the mid 90s, right?
Hmm.
And I really felt like just by virtue of being in the military at that time, I was pioneering. Like it wasn't
Yes.
that long that women were really in active roles like combat roles and stuff like that. So in going on ships, we're like, and so we'll get into that later, spoiler alert. But like it's just amazing to think about the time period that you went in and how all these women were in all of these diverse roles
Yes.
and we're slaying because we work twice as hard as a woman, I think, in the military because it's so male dominated. And the culture is that of like, at least when I was in, was a
Hmm.
little bit like side eye to females. Like, are you going to hold us back? And that was still kind of even though I was in, it was like some 20 some years of women being like more actively involved in these different diverse roles. It was more or less kind of like, are you going to slow me down, hold me
Yes.
back, or are
Hmm.
you going to be able to help us achieve the mission, right? What is it going to be? And I
Hmm.
was blessed to work with a lot of males who felt like women were an important part of the military and were valued, but I still felt like I needed to be on my game.
I agree. I agree. Worked twice as hard, longer hours. Gave up family time, kid time, sacrificed it all, volunteered a lot, did things no one else wanted to do because leadership is doing what no one else will do. Do not ask your subordinates to do something you're not willing to do. So, I agree with that. I felt like I had to work harder and prove myself,
Hmm.
not just you had to kind of find that in between, look at football, watch football extensively, so Monday morning you can come in and chat with the guys and be a part of their team, but also teach them.
Hmm.
But you had to find that wiggle room where you can socialize with them and make them feel like, I'm not going to bite, I'm not going to hurt you, and I'm not going to break. I'm one of you guys. I'm your shipmate. At the end of
Hmm.
the day, I'm your shipmate. So it took a lot to understand that. And I think as women in the military, we have to work harder. I think it's just naturally that we do that because we're also caring. We're going to go the extra mile. We're going to say, oh, he does not look good today. Something's going on. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to look at him, talk to him, see what's going on. But yes, you're right. We work harder. But I think we also we set that standard, right? So we try to get to the next level, so the females behind us can definitely come up and do better than we did. So the 90s were a tough time. It was a lot of segregation at that time. Women were kind of, oh, how cute. She's going to go out and do her nails, or she's, wiggling in her little heels and a little skirt. And but when you get down to business and you show yourself, you can go neck and neck with them. You could stand the watch. You can fix things. You work outside of your rate. You just earn their respect, right? And I think that is the biggest takeaway from the military, is earning respect, loving yourself, and promoting your team. Being part of a team is really what it's all about. So I think it's a hard road to go through, but I think once you get there, you look back and you see all the growth and how much you've changed, right? Because when you went in, you had no idea what you were going in for. You kind of walked in the door and said, I'll get, school, I'll get my GI Bill. But at the end of the day, you walked away with so much more. And the friendships, oh, let's not talk about that. I've got, it's so funny. I pick up the phone and I could talk to girls that I've been stationed with 20, 25 years ago, and pick up the phone. We talk like we've been BFFs and we never skip a beat. We just go at it. We talk, we cut up, we have a good time, and that's the best part too. Is just walking away with that family that you met and cultivated and grew with. So, yeah, I agree.
Oh my gosh, well, you said a lot right there. I mean, for real, but like I was thinking about my career
Hmm.
in the military, and when you said earning respect, if like that is probably the definition of what my career was, time and time again, proving myself,
Hmm.
earning that respect, showing people that I was top notch, right?
Yes.
And I had definitely had some barriers I had to break through,
Hmm.
um, and continuously show people that, hey, I'm a star. You might not
Yes,
have
you are.
seen it. You might have misjudged me. You might not have thought that I was, but I am. And I'm going to show you through my work ethic and how I show up and how I interact and
Yes.
how I present myself, which ultimately culminated in a letter of appreciation from the command, which was a surprise on my last day, which is like one of my greatest honors because proving yourself and earning that respect and showing people who you are is, especially as a female, is the nature of that. And I think and the friendships and the and we're all leaders,
Yes.
as you rank up, you just get more and more, you just learn, you're just trained to be a leader, right?
Hmm.
And so taking that away, the ability to work hard, earn respect and leadership skills, I think makes any veteran formidable in the civilian world. But
I
we'll dive
agree.
into that later because I want to circle back to your business and we'll plug that back in. I want to go back to the family we create and ask you my next question. So, what was boot camp like for you? Because that was where I created my first little family in the military.
I agree. It was like a big sleepover. Um, I think that was the first time, like I said, I've met Southern girls and Northern girls and girls from all over, and us all coming together for the common goal of getting, ready for testing or PI inspection or something like that. We all we took our strengths and we all put it together. So one girl was great at ironing and boot shining, another one was studying, so we all just, it was just a big sleepover. We took it all in stride. We had a good time. we knew the mission, and that's where I think we started learning our leadership and teamwork and building, and just enjoying the camaraderie and learning from all these beautiful, wonderful women. And some came in, they had children. Some came in, this was straight out of high school. Some of them, they're in their mid 20s, early 30s. It was such a diverse crowd, but we all got along. And of course, there were the little cliques, right? Like just
Yeah.
any high school, there was the little
Mhm.
cliques. You had your little group here and your little group there. But at the end of the day, I think I had a really amazing time. And I enjoyed it completely. I'd do it in a heartbeat again. No, not all of it, but back then was a little rough, right?
It was. I mean, so for me, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know this already. I was at Great Lakes
Hmm.
when they made Great Lakes the only training for boot camp, and I was there in a 900 company, and so my company was integrated. So it was half guys, half girls. It was one of the first ones. I think we might have been third or fourth that they'd ever done.
Wow.
Um, Definitely one of the first ones. And I got selected to be in that unit, and it was extraordinary. What we did was we maintained the drill hall, and we put on the boot camp graduations. And so my role there was serving the officers in the officers like lounge for boot camp, and I would
Hmm.
make Kool-Aid. That was my job. And afterwards we would get to eat cake, and that we thought that was like
It's the
every
best.
week we got to eat cake and drink Kool-Aid at boot camp. It was so exciting. um, and what you said about the women and coming from all over the country, right? So that was my biggest, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but that was the biggest, most powerfully impactful thing for me in boot camp, other than getting cycled and and beat by my company commander, which is what they were called back then. Um,
Right.
I'm dating myself, but we all know. So basically, it was extraordinary because I was from Philadelphia, and I'd come
Hmm.
from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And there were girls, like you said, from down south, from New Orleans, from California, from Massachusetts, places I'd never been to. And it was so interesting to see the differences in your environment and how they
Yes.
developed your personality. So we all had very different personalities, and we were so curious. And that was the most beautiful thing, because I was like, well, what's it like in a small town in Alabama? Like, and even if there were any sort of like, I don't know, racial things, right?
Hmm.
Like that
Hmm.
maybe you've never seen. There was actually a girl who had never. There was no people of color in her town, like none.
Wow.
She did not
Wow.
grow up with. It was her first experience being in a diverse
Environment.
atmosphere, and
Yeah.
she was the sweetest, like
Oh,
so like, oh my, like I did not know. Like, and it was
that's
amazing.
yes, yes. I mean, yeah, there were. I'd never met anyone from the South. I never met anyone from California. So listening to them talk and listening to their ideology,
Mhm.
you kind of just bring all that together and say, okay, I'm very narrow in my way of thinking. I need to expand and open up a little bit. And it was just, like I said, it was every night was hang out I think we used to hang out like in the back by the bathroom area. We'd all just sitting on the floor, polish shoes, and talk about what they missed. Like every night we had a theme of what do you miss today from home? Did you get a letter, or what's going on back home? And we'd all share in our and what's going on in our lives, and it was just amazing. And the food, every once in a while there'd be a treat box. Very rare,
Mhm.
but we get a treat box every once in a while, and everyone would share and just enjoy each other's company. It was truly amazing. It was probably the best time in my life was boot camp. I'm glad you brought it up.
I loved it. I mean, I'm okay. Boot camp had its difficulties.
Yeah.
obviously, like you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's reveille, and then it's lights out and rules and lots of structure and cleaning with socks and like there's all the difficult things, right?
Yes.
By the way, I was the girl who was your go-to on your boots. Like if you wanted your boots shine with precision and they were
You
going to
were
be
it.
exemplary and get noticed, it was
Yes.
me. You came to me. Okay. That was it. But yeah, we were the same. And because we had guys in our
Hmm.
company, we would go into this courtyard downstairs and everyone would open their packages and we would all like
Oh,
share
that's
and
so
we'd have
cool.
time to hang out with the guys and talk. I think one people became a couple and they ended up getting married outside of boot camp. like
That is
like
so amazing.
maybe a year because we all got stationed at
Uh-huh.
we all got stationed at Great Lakes after boot camp for our A school
The
for core
school.
training, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And they went there and then I think by the end of core training they were engaged. I think they were like
Wow.
married a year later. So
Wow.
yeah, so it was crazy. But we met people, we hung out, we met the guys, and it was the same with the guys, right? We had that same sort of bonding. So for me, my first introduction to men
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
military was first of all, I was very, very lucky because I had a female and a male company commander. And my
Wow.
male company commander was extraordinary because you do sometimes have them in there and other girls that went through boot camp at the same time I did had fraternization situations. We'll just put it that
Mm.
way.
Okay. Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
Mine was, he was very above board. Like he was like legit and he was outstanding. And I absolutely, both of them were very hardcore
Hmm.
but very amazing. So my first example of leadership was extraordinary. Then my first interaction with males in the military, which I was very nervous. I was super naive. I was coming out of private school,
Yes. Yes.
like a very structured private school, and I
Hmm.
did not have. I mean, I had boys at the private school with me, but as far as military goes, I was not sure. I didn't have knowledge. I was a very
Hmm.
idealistic young woman and very, very naive. Um,
Yes.
so I could have very easily been preyed upon, but
Hmm.
I was in an environment of an extraordinary men, of great
That's
guys.
amazing.
And so that was my first experience with
Hmm.
guys in the military was great. So, and fortunately, that carried on mostly through most of the way through my military career. So, it set the groundwork for me to have a lot of like some of my, I keep in touch with them. Like they're my
That's
brothers,
amazing.
right?
That's
To this
amazing.
day.
So
Hmm.
do you think that was it because of going through boot camp together that made that relationship extraordinary, do you think, with the males?
I think so. I think it,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously you go through it with women and
Right.
they're like your sisters. By the I
Yes.
remember shedding tears when boot camp was over because I was aware that some of these women I'd never see again.
Mm.
I mean, it was
Mm.
when I was serving, we didn't have cell phones. We had pagers and those were not authorized. Okay. So like, we did not have email. It came out while
Right.
I was on active duty.
Right.
So it was, you didn't think you'd ever see or hear from these people again because you didn't know like you knew where you were going to get stationed, but life gets in the way. And
Happens.
my recruiter had driven me from Philadelphia to Harrisburg because I enlisted in Harrisburg, where my private school was near there. That was the next biggest city where I could sign up, right?
Hmm.
Having grown up in Hershey. And they had to drive me to Harrisburg. And on the way there, they're giving me this talk, right? Like, say goodbye to your friends. You're never going to see it. Like, your life is about to change.
Yes.
You are not going to have time for your back home friends. And they're like, and a lot of people you meet in the Navy, you're never going to see again. So just get prepared
To
for
say
like this
goodbye.
sort of, yeah, this transience, this saying goodbye to people.
Mm-hmm.
So when boot camp was over, I was aware that this might be the last time I saw many of the, and it was actually, I'm always on here saying, hey, if you were in company 908, hit me up on this podcast. If you hear it, let's connect, right? I'm always saying that because the last girls I saw, they were, it was when I was in A school and they were at TPU.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but
Yeah.
bittersweet, right? You love them, they become your family. The guys and the girls, they were like brothers to me. I was closer with the girls because we slept in the same drill hall, right? We
Yes.
like in the same quarters, I should say. We cleaned the same drill hall.
Right.
We like cleaned that the compartment. We did all the things, right? We somebody ironed, I did boots, somebody stenciled, like like
Yes.
there was a girl who used to braid my hair every night. She would do two French braids for me, right? So like it was a beautiful sisterly bonding. You think I didn't know these people 8 weeks ago, and now I'm sobbing, crying, clinging to them as I
Right.
graduate boot camp.
It was bittersweet. It really
Yeah.
was. My hair would grow relatively quickly, so in between, I'd always get hit on my hair hitting my collar. So I had a girl that every night she'd come in and go, "Come on, let's go get that little quick trim in before the next PI." And it's just looking out for each other. And I think that bond, I would love to reconnect with some of those individuals. So I'm so glad you said that. I will try reaching out and say, "Hey, K049 out of Orlando. Hey, anybody around?"
Let's do it.
So, yeah, yeah, it would be amazing to see where they ended up in life. It would be wonderful. I've never crossed paths with any of them,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it was
So,
a different time then. It's much easier now
yes.
to stay connected. So I want to ask you, okay, so after boot camp, we were all crying our bittersweet tears, and you had to go to your first command. What was that like for you?
So it was very intimidating. So my first command after boot camp, I went to A school for PN school in Meridian, Mississippi.
Mm.
Not much to do out there, mind you, but it was fun again. We had our little clique and life was great.
Hmm.
So ending up going to my first duty station was on the USS Bowen. So it was a new program where they let females come on board to be a part of the Fast Frigate community. And very intimidating that first day, just trying to get it right to walk on board and salute the ensign and ask for permission to come aboard. Just a lot of nerves. And we met the ship in Puerto Rico and we got underway right away. And needless to say, most of us were seasick because we've never been on a small boat before. And the males on board, of course, they were told to stay away from the females and kind of treat them like you were saying earlier. Just yeah, you're over here. We're the cool dudes, and you guys are just the newbies. But it was stressful, honestly, and just trying to get your bearings, to learn your job, and all the different things. But it was also very rewarding because I had a female senior chief, and she was fearless. She was just she was in the chief's mess giving them hell. She was everywhere doing everything. She wasn't afraid. She was not going to back down, and she kind of mentored me into okay, like you, I came from a very naive background, very with my family all the time, didn't have a lot of external relationships. So it was really hard to maneuver all that and to figure out where your comfort zone is. What could you tolerate? What can't you tolerate? But in time, of course, working as hard as they are, working in the scullery, uh, doing all the cleanups across from the chief's mess, and it's starting to get recognized for working really hard. And actually, I think I was only on board like maybe 6 or 8 months, and I had gotten junior sailor of the quarter, and that was like, oh my gosh, they know who I am. They really know me, little me, and but the hard work and not backing down. Just hold your ground. Every drill, everything I was always there for. I volunteered anything they wanted. I did because I wanted to prove myself and to be respected, not just oh, yeah, just watch out for her. She's new. She might trip over or fall down the flight of stairs or whatever the case may be. No, it was no. I got this. I got this, and I'll take care of you. How about that?
I think that feminine energy, right?
Yes.
That sometimes people might think it might be a weakness in the military, but
Right.
it's not. It's a
No.
gift. It is really a gift. Strong women in service, especially high ranking and leadership positions, is a gift
Yes.
to the United States military. I will die on that hill. Okay, like honestly, like there's
Yes.
nothing like it because like you said earlier, we realize very quickly we have to work hard. We have to earn that respect. We have to prove ourselves, right? And then we have, like you said earlier, that nurturing, caring,
Mhm.
compassionate energy, especially as a leader. When you do see that guy that's away from home, that's
Yeah.
struggling, maybe he's having problems with his wife, whatever, what have you, we are the people that we can go up and show that softness. Whereas the
Yeah.
guys, they're like my favorite, Jocko Willing says, good. Your wife left you good. Like, get on with it. But we're going to be
Move
the
on.
softer side of that. And I think you need both in the
Yes.
military. You need both. So I love that you said that and that you had a senior chief that was a female at that time. So she had worked and she
Get
had
there.
proven herself to rise in rank and
Absolutely.
and be on that boat. I toured a frigate. I think it was 1996. Okay, 95. It was 95. That was the only way I got on a boat. And it is always going to be a source of sadness for me because I was stationed shore command my entire time in Bill Clinton era. I'll just say,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I was in a training command. So no one wanted to go to Chicago at that time because it was
Right.
one of the strictest bases. And so they needed bodies, and my body was already there. So that's where I stayed. So I didn't get to see the world, and I didn't get to go on a ship like I wanted, but I loved my experience nonetheless. So I wanted to go on a boat, and the boat, incidentally, I chose to go on was a frigate. And I'll never forget touring through that boat and thinking to myself, well, I think I could do this. Like it's
Yes, you.
crazy, but I think I could do it. And then
Mhm.
there was one woman officer on board and
Mhm.
I got to see her quarters. I was like able to go over there and check it out. And I thought to myself, there is one woman on this
On
boat.
this ship. Mhm.
How extraordinary of, of her, right?
And
I'll never forget it.
I know, and I think you would have done great. And that's the thing. At that point in time, we didn't really know where we were going. We had no idea what our next duty station was going to be. I just happened to luck out and be one of those first few that went on board, and I appreciated that because it showed me I had now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't perfect because I messed up quite a few retirements and fleet reserve requests
Mm.
because did not know what I was doing. And it was so fast paced. It was go to GQ, go here, go there, and then go ahead and process these 5 people for retirement. So it was a lot, and thank God she was there, my senior chief, so she made sure things did go smoothly. But the first few that I processed, I was like, this is not what the milpers man says. This is a whole new world. So you had to improvise, you had to learn fast, you had to learn on your feet. And back in those days, we had a typewriter, mind you. So
Yeah.
you made one mistake, that OCR doc is out the window and you start from scratch again. So it was challenging and long nights, late nights, but I would not have traded that for anything on this earth. It really kind of set the battle rhythm for the years to come behind that.
What does it feel like for you to be such a pioneer, having gone on, been one of the first 12?
It feels I could have done more. It feels that it feel like I wanted to do more, because now looking back, it was a segue for the next group to come on board and to do better and to do bigger and to accomplish even more. And had I known that in my early stages of my career, I would have I would have gotten all kinds of quals. I would have done, I just never knew how much further I could have gone till many years later. But being on board and being one of the first, and actually getting a little video done of me coming on board, and pretend typing and doing all these little a little crew had followed me around, and we did all these little, a day in the life type things. So it was kind of neat. And I thought, if anything else, if they can see me doing it, they will want to do it too, and they'll do it better and bigger. And I just felt like, okay, I'm here to make it easier for the next group. So I was, like I said, I would not have given it up, changed it for the world, because it was, it was life changing in more ways than one, because I also met my first husband on board. So we were not fraternizing. We were both, he was an E2 and I was an E3. And so once I transferred off, and the ship, funny enough, I came from New York. I joined the military, MEPS Brooklyn, and the ship was out of Norfolk, and it came right back to Staten Island. So I just literally joined the Navy to see the world,
I
but I
came
came
home.
right back to my home. So it's pretty funny. But it was, like I said, it was more ways than one, because I met my husband, and we had our children, and um, they wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for going on board and meeting different people, and starting your life, literally starting your life.
It's true. I met my first husband in the military as well, and I think that's kind of normal. People get
Yeah.
married a lot in the military young, right?
Yes.
Um, so starting young families and things of that nature, it's part. I think it's part of the culture. Uh,
It
at least it
is.
was then. I don't know if it still is, but at least it did seem like everyone was getting married and having kids when I was in. Yeah.
That's true. I think so. I think because your life was changed. You're looking for some kind of structure also,
Hmm. Yeah.
and companionship, because your families, you left them behind, and so you're looking for some continuity, family, some familiarity. So I think that's what happened in our generation was, we're trying to replicate what we had at home, in our new lives. So yeah, a lot of my shipmates did get married fairly early, and a lot of divorces too.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
the that's the downside.
As I said, my first husband. So,
That's I did too.
so, okay. Well, now you have a family. So you went in, you served, you met your first husband,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
what was active duty like for you then? Because then you had a significant other, and
So
then you were advancing in your career, and then having kids and creating your family. So now you're a woman in the military who's pioneering, who's trying to advance her career and work hard and volunteer and have extra hours and do all the things, right? But you're also a wife and mother.
and sometimes it doesn't always balance, a lot of times in hindsight, I wish I had gotten out. My husband decided to get out, and so he separated, and but he didn't do. He wasn't as acclimated and geared for the civilian life, so he really had a tough time transitioning. But I think it should have been the other way around. I should have transitioned, and he should have stayed, but that wasn't the case. So it was difficult. My kids had a really rough childhood,
Mm.
because the transition. One year they were in three different schools. adjusting, always being the new kid. Just mom's not here or dad's here, but it was like we high fived each other. One would leave, one would deploy, one would come home. So it was really tough. In hindsight, I think that's my only regret. Being in the military has been amazing and wonderful and all the good things, but there is the downside of it as well. Something's going to suffer along the way. And I was driven at that point in trying to make it and get to the next level, that sometimes the kids were kind of like the second thought, and that's not what it should have been like. So that's one of my biggest regrets, is being dual military and having the kids and not realizing all their needs. Now, I did everything I could on that I could possibly do. I did Boy Scouts. I coached their soccer team when I was on shore duty. But the minute we got comfortable with that, I had to pick up and go deploy, or we had to swap out. One was going to shore, one was going back to sea. So yes, it was a little difficult, but you know what? The kids ended up joining the military when they grew up as well. So, and we have a fantastic relationship. We went through the ups and downs in their later
Of
teen
course.
years, but
Mhm.
um, but I'm grateful for it, because they were comfortable enough to tell me um, what things didn't work, and what did work. And now we're very close, and it just came full circle. So don't ever give up when things really kind of pedal to the metal, and you're doing things you really don't want to do, but it's kind of in your wheelhouse. You're the only one that could go out there and do A, B, C, and D. You do it. Um, but just that there's going to be the pros and cons to everything, so you have to be mature enough to know you're not going to be perfect at it. You just give it the best shot you can give it and move forward.
For sure. I mean, it's tough just being a woman in the military, but then you add on being a wife, being a mother,
Hmm.
the effect. And I think that's something that we've talked about several times on this podcast, but I can't stress enough from the stories that I hear, is the stress of the children when the parents are both military. Like I always say, the family, whether it's a dependent spouse or the children, really
Hmm.
are the backbone of the military, because they are making such an ultimate sacrifice, um a huge sacrifice rather, for this country, because their parents are doing the most, right? They're working hard at their jobs in service to this country, in service to our constitution, and
Hmm.
they are sacrificing time
Yes.
with their children, and ultimately having to deal with the ups and downs of the repercussions of that. When, as a parent myself, I know that it's going to happen anyway. By the way, I was a stay-home mom for 13 years, and my son got to be a teenager, and I still had to deal with it. So just side note for your own personal, like, it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So might
I
as well be
agree.
advancing in your career. Right.
That's true. That's true. No one ever
Right.
said raising kids was going to be the easy thing, right? But
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah,
we
but
got
we're
through it, right?
worth it. And
Yes.
also, definitely to see you creating this amazing, beautiful career as an enlisted woman, rising through the ranks and pioneering for all the women coming up behind you, which is extraordinary. So, I would love to hear more about some of the adventures that you had throughout your duty stations.
I have to say, they were adventures, all right. I had a chance to go to Korea, and I'll tell you, the food was amazing, and the people were awesome. And while we were on one of our deployments, my first class, she went shopping. She lost all of her IDs. She comes back in panic. I'm in panic because we're overseas. what am I supposed? What do we can't just run to DMV and grab her a new driver's license. So talk about being creative and learning how to think on the fly. So I made her a fake librarian ID card. And then we had her change out of those clothes. And then we made her another fake, and I say fake because, of course, they're not legal, but we were trying to figure out ways to prove who she is. I mean, well, it was just a small group of us. So our little team, we knew who she was, but the Deers people are not going to give her an ID
Oh
card.
my
She
gosh.
cannot leave the country, and I cannot leave her behind. So, um, so I made some phone calls, and I talked to another chief over at the base. We had to smuggle her in the back of a vehicle in the trunk to get her through one base and get her over to the other base, because we were over in Pohang, and I had to get her over to the main base in order to get her an ID card so she could fly back home with us when it was time. So talk about stressing out, and I couldn't go with her, so I had to let her go on her own. Couldn't hear anything from her because there was no cell phones on the bases, and we didn't have any on us. So just being able to just sit there and continue working and act like everything was great while I know she's being smuggled. And I haven't told my higher ups, I haven't said anything to anybody. I'm the senior man, I'm E7, and that's it. So I'm the girl that was going to take that fall. So thank goodness everything worked itself out. She did go get the ID card, and then she came back without having to sit in the in the trunk of the car on the way back.
Oh my
She was
God.
able to come back to our base over at Pohang, and I think that was one of my most stressful scenarios with being overseas with small team, and we were augmenting some of the larger teams, but we were just a small group, and it was within the CB community. So it was now we could laugh about it. At that point in time, it was not at all funny. It was really I didn't, and it was a new chief, so I did not want to lose my person. And going through that, I think after that one, I was good with anything else after that. I
Like
was
a
like ready.
nightmare for both of you.
Yes.
Your career is hanging in the balance and you have no way of knowing if it went fine or not. Oh my
And
gosh.
she didn't even pick up the stuff she went to shop for.
Oh
She didn't
my.
even get the gifts that she was supposed to get the first go
Oh, what a
around.
night.
So
And then poor girl, she's like in the trunk of a like being small, like the fear she must have been feeling.
she still talks about that till this day. We still keep in touch,
Uh,
and she still talks about it. And I'm like, I always tell people, that the military makes you ready for anything, and
mhm,
the most the most unusual scenarios, but you learn to act on your feet, you learn to think, you stay calm, you don't let anybody know you're panicking, even though on my I think I probably drenched a couple t-shirts while I was waiting for her. It was like mama bear and baby bear, and baby bear was nowhere to be found, and I was worried, but we got through that
mhm.
one. So lessons learned. it was it was unusual, but fake cards, I know how to make them and laminate them. So that's my new side hustle. No, I'm just playing. Just I don't know how we got away with what we did, but we did it. We did it.
Amazing. You know what? I've said that so many times about my military career. I don't know how we got away with what we did, but we did it.
We
Very
just
narrowly sometimes, but we did it.
yes, we
Mhm.
got it done. We got it done, right? That's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember one time because I was serving during peacetime, right?
Hmm.
So my career, I mean, I just got out right after 9/11. And so we would go down into Chicago
Hmm.
and go to these underground parties all the time, right? And then I remember one time, I mean, I was like 20. I mean, you gonna do? Go dancing, right?
Yes.
So when you're off duty. So when I had duty the next morning and I wasn't gonna go out, but my friends were like, come, come, come. You know how that goes. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, probably because I had a car and they really wanted me to go, right?
Yeah.
So I went and all of this like crazy drama happened that night and we got separated from one of my friends there. Um and I went was looking for him. We were trying to find him.
Mm.
And um and then I ended up having to go. Like it was just like I have duty. So I
Hmm.
have to go. So it's like I didn't want to leave him behind. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And my some of my friends are like, you have to go. We'll figure this out. You have to go. So then it's a race against time for me to get back to base. I'm not in uniform. I did have my uniform with me just in case of anything,
Smart
right?
girl.
But like, so luckily for me, I was a few minutes late for duty, like 10 or something like that. And the guy that I was relieving was a good
Hmm.
friend of mine. So he just like kind of covered for me and I like ran in there and I had all like party makeup on. It's like completely not satisfactory. Okay. Like completely. And I'm like running in there and get my uniform on and like literally
Kind
sat
of
at the
clean.
desk fixing my like he's leaving and I'm fixing getting myself in order, right? Because then my uniform's all I'm like trying to fix myself up before anyone because then we would have someone come through and then check on us, right? So I had to make sure that I was like satisfactory before this person came through and did the sweep. So I was just like the stress of driving that 30 minutes back or 40 minutes back, that every minute like getting closer to time for me to be on watch. The stress. Not like
Unbelievable.
losing your ID and having to be smuggled in a trunk, admittedly, but
But
very
similar.
stressful, right?
Yeah.
Like very stressful because you can get in a lot of trouble for that.
Yes.
So, and I did not want to
Yes.
get into a lot of trouble for that. Okay. So,
No.
so I was just
No.
trying to behave, right? And it was fairly early in my career too. So I was like not wanting to make waves and I wanted to,
Hmm.
so I was terrified. So yeah, we get away. We got, and that was the beginning of crazy things that I should not have been able to pull off,
Yes, I
but
know.
managed to get through during my career. But that Naval Hospital Great Lakes was such a time. So tell me, what was your favorite duty station of all the places you were stationed?
Rhode Island. Rhode Island.
Really?
I met my girlfriends there. So it was a group of four of us, and life was great there. So it was staff duty. So it was S4 command. No, S3 command. So basically, we didn't have deployments or anything like that. So it was just a great family environment there. As a matter of fact, my lieutenant from back there, he was my guest speaker at my retirement, and that was like 20 years later.
Oh,
Um, so that was my ultimate favorite. We would have potlucks. We would go to TJ Maxx during our lunch break. We were always at each other's house. That was the family. That was the family, and the
mm.
kids grew up around my girlfriends. And till this day, I mean, they were there for my retirement. We always get together once a year. So it was a friendship that has lasted, that has endured time and space and distance. So it was my ultimate duty station. And the team from there, oh, so the road trips. So we went on inspection trips. They were out of this world. And
I
it
bet.
brought to mind it brought to mind what you were saying about, getting up, and we had to come in there, act like we were all professional, but we all went out with the staff the night before, very late hours. Not I'm not used to the late hours, but we were out having fun and seeing the sights, and try to walk in there the next day straight, and when put together and you're hungover, but it was amazing. we covered for each other. We made sure everybody was on time. We account for everybody. No one was ever left behind. We took care of each other 100%. Everybody knew each other's families, so it was just the best 3 years of my life. It was getting the friendships that have lasted all these years, and just being with each other and reminiscing and going back and talking about, remember that time you did something something, and we can't talk about that. Those that what goes on up north stays up north. We can't talk about it, but
No
it
one
was.
needs to know what you were getting into.
Nope. Nope. And we never got in trouble though.
Hmm.
We had a great group. Never got
Hmm.
into any kind of problems, no DUIs, no nothing. Somebody would always be there to pick everybody else up. So it was that's where the family and the strong bonds and the long-term relationships and the nurturing came from that group, and I'll never forget them and all the crazy. One of the girls, she always had to stay behind, and she'd always be like, okay, so tell me all the stories, and we just gather around with a cup of coffee on Monday and talk about all the fiascos that went on, and all that good stuff. But it was the best time of my life, and I like I said, I'd never would have met these people, and I would never have done any of the things I did, but I'm happy to have done it with them. So it was amazing.
That's so beautiful. Like, okay, so I was stationed at Great Lakes for my entire career, my entire active career and reserve. So you can imagine the bonds that were made there.
Long
And in
term.
fact, I just celebrated my 50th birthday on the 28th of September.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
You look amazing. You
Thank
look
you.
amazing.
And I'm holding up. Okay. So,
Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah, you're holding up. You look
so
great. You look fabulous.
my two best friends that I met in 1996 through my birthday party. My
How amazing.
Right? When my friend from my girlfriend from the Navy, she's the auntie to my
Mhm.
kids, right?
Mhm.
And my other friend, Leanne, she would come from a base out in California, and she would come during recruit surge because I was pharmacy. So she would come during recruit surge to help us with the pharmacy. And she came every year for like 3 summers. And those 3 summers, and I always say that I believe in love at first sight because of her, because
Mhm.
I remember the moment I first laid eyes on her and I thought, that is my girl.
Mm.
I'm gonna love her. I just
Yes.
know it. Like at first sight, I was like, I'm gonna just love her. And sure enough, she came into the pharmacy just to look around because she wasn't starting till the next day because she's efficient. So she was like, let me get sorted before I start, right? And
Right.
I was working and they were like, Baker, come over here and show her around, And so that was it. And I was like, there she, and I said, come on, like, and I
Let's
showed
go.
her around, and that was the rest was history. Here we are,
Mm.
some 30 years later, and
That's
she
unbelievable.
threw a milestone birthday with my other best friend who was stationed with me there and who I've lived with off and on my entire like the friendships when they use the bond. So when you
Yeah.
say that time in Rhode Island where you met your girlfriends and you've maintained those relationships and they
Uh,
they were part of the village that it took to raise your kids and all
yes.
of that, I feel that to my heart. It was like the military gave me so much. And I
Yes. I
didn't
agree.
understand or appreciate it really at the time. It took me actually
Mhm.
many years to realize how, how impactful and how powerful that experience was in my life. It has defined my life in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
right?
I
And
agree.
with those friendships and even the guys that I keep in touch with. I have one that's going to come visit me in the next couple of months, right? That I served with and we used to go out and hang out and go to the movies and just he was like a brother to me. And so they stood this test of time. That
Yeah.
experience bonds you like
Mhm.
few other
Nothing
things
else.
can, right? It's
I
beautiful.
agree. I agree. It's the friendships, like I said, the family that you made there. It's amazing. I can't, I did not appreciate it either. I didn't realize
Mhm,
what we were building and
mhm.
gearing up for. And for a lifetime of laughs, I'd do it again.
Yeah.
I'd do it
Yeah,
all
I'd
over
stay
again.
longer. If I could go back in time, I think I would if I could tell my younger self something because I was so not the right person for the military. I was
Hmm.
such a hippie. I was so everyone when I enlisted at 17, people were like, You're not gonna take the SATs? What are you taking? You're taking what is the ASVAB? What do you mean? You're going to the military? You're going to the military, the softest,
Yeah.
happiest hippie, the most like you are gonna no way. This isn't and even when I was there and I'd see myself in uniform and I'd sometimes be like, oh, like it would catch me off guard because it was so not who I was. But if I could tell
Right.
that young girl something, I would say probably one, take the opportunity and check out going as an officer because I really wanted to go to have the college experience, but I didn't want to owe the time.
Hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to go in and enlist it because I'll only owe 8 years. So
Right.
so I did that. But if I first I would say maybe consider owing 12 years is not that bad. It's gonna go by fast. But
It
if
did.
not, but I loved being enlisted. So it's hard to say that, right? Because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I could have been an officer. But then I'm like, but I deeply, deeply loved being enlisted. And I
Hmm.
loved that vibe. So I think I would tell myself, maybe just take it year by year. Don't be in such a hurry to get out. You'll miss it.
And we don't know what we don't know, right?
Mhm.
So, and everything happens for a reason. So
Yeah.
you had gotten out, and then what was your next steps?
Oh my gosh, I went right into corporate, and what a mess that was. But I had all the skills. So, like,
Right.
I had great skills that allowed me to move forward until I couldn't
Hmm.
in in the civilian world. But what I learned there, spoiler alert, was that it was not nearly as cool. Right? Like what the people were different,
Yeah.
the culture was different. I don't really
Yes.
like corporate. Like I would prefer I work for myself. So that's the vibe that I'm in. I left the corporate world to be a mom, right?
Hmm.
But what I can tell you about my experiences in it was that the people were not as cool. The people, the experience, the culture, just at least during that time now. Man, these millennials, they make companies now where there's nap pods and yoga and all these things, right? But back
Yeah.
in the day when I was there, okay, it was a
Not.
cubicle, long
Yes.
hours, and shut up. Okay.
Yes.
so
I
that's
agree.
not exactly true. Some companies were like that, some were better, but like that's the thing. So for me, I learned very quickly I have to level up in this corporate like world
Hmm. Hmm.
or I'm going to hate it.
Hmm.
And so that's
Yes.
what I set to do. And then I did that until I realized, okay, I actually need to go to college if I want to progress any further. But I realized that it wasn't for, also realized it wasn't for
That
me.
wasn't for you. Hmm.
I would have, like, if I had to choose between corporate America, at least the way it was then, maybe it's a lot different now. Um, and the military, I would choose the military hands down every single time. Every single time.
I
Every
agree.
time. And
I
my life's in danger in the military. So just think about that.
It's crazy. It's really interesting because you bring out a really good point of your environment means so much to
Mhm,
you that you thrived while you were in the military. But in corporate world where it was safe and you had your routine, that wasn't what you wanted. So
mm-mm.
how crazy is that?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
the other thing is too, you start looking at leadership because you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I've been trained as a leader since I was a little
You
nothing,
won.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and so like and so you start looking at the civilian leadership and you're going,
What are you doing?
I'm
Who are
gonna listen
you?
to you. Like really, I've got to listen to like this is dumb. But like you have
Yes,
to stay,
yes.
like, you have to stay in your place, right? So it's very difficult. And then a lot of times if you have PTSD, which I have a little bit of that, you can come off different Like mine makes me
Hmm.
some people's manifest itself, they seem bitchy or angry
Yeah,
to
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Mine can make me quiet and
And
like
reserved.
and very reserved. So
Hmm.
then, people make assumptions, especially and then as a woman who has served in the military, sometimes people make assumptions about what that
Hmm.
means. And so there's
Hmm.
like levels to that transition, going from um military life to civilian life. And I was not a girl who had a strong plan. So that like I had a plan, but it wasn't a strong plan. Like I have talked to many women. So I'm actually going to ask you this question in just a second. um, but one of the things, the answers that I get for this question about transitioning out of the military, a lot of times it's hard for women, and we talk about that. It's hard for men too. Like it's very hard more often than not. But there are people who I have interviewed who have transitioned out beautifully. And what I learned from them is that they had a really good plan, and their
Plan.
plan started out a year or two before they
Wow.
were getting out of the military. So they were already thinking about, what is my next phase? What am I going to do? I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to college and then I'm going to
Right.
pursue this career. Like they were already planning that. Mine was sort of like, I'm going to go work in corporate America because I have great skills and I know that I'm going to get hired. And then these temp agencies were like really popular at the time. And I said, you know what? I want to figure out what kind of company I want to work at. So I'm going to start as a temp, which was very easy for me to do with my skill
Hmm.
set, and
Right.
just, try out different companies and get paid to figure out where I want to work and decide from there. And that was like my plan. And it was a good plan. It actually worked. The first company that I worked at was Granger. I should have stayed there too. Like I left, I moved to
Yeah.
Arizona for a year to check out somewhere different. Um,
Hmm.
but I had got my first position was with Granger and they offered me to stay there, and I should have stayed because it's a great company.
It is actually. They're
And
very
I
good.
loved it. I loved them. I
Yeah.
loved how they treated their employees. And that was what I mean. Like some companies are better than others. The
Hmm.
benefits, the way they treated their employees, all of that, and they loved me there
Hmm.
because the manager had been a Navy veteran, right? So I was already hooked up.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
should have stayed.
Yeah. You had your
After
family
that,
already.
sort of downhill. Like, yeah, yeah.
It is hard sometimes to find your structure, or find your calling.
Mhm,
Honestly, it is difficult, and then you're like, oh, I should have stayed there, or I should have done this. But I also strongly believe that for everything there is a reason for it.
mhm,
And
truly.
if you hadn't, if you stay stuck in your comfort zone, you may not have achieved what you've achieved today.
It's true.
Um, so it probably was meant to be that you had to leave them, even though they were awesome. But it was time to move on to your next adventure as well. So,
I agree with you. I think that you couldn't have, there was no way that you would have asked me, "Hey Kia, what is your plan or what do you want to do?" And I would have said,
mhm,
"Well, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going
right.
to interview women who served in the military so that the world can know what our experiences are, good and bad, whatever the female veteran story is that is her truth. I'm going to provide a platform for her to share that." There's no way I could have ever known that that would be the
No,
case because it didn't exist.
no, no. And now look at you.
Yeah, so now
What are
I'm
you
working,
doing?
working with veterans, working with not-for-profits, doing these workshops, helping people with mindset, like all the things that I love doing, the coaching and the
Right.
podcasting and everything, wasn't really in existence back
No,
then. And
no.
so I agree with you. Everything definitely happens for a reason, and transitioning can be difficult. So I'd love to know what your transition out of the military was like.
So I did not have a plan. Um, I'll say that. I had remarried, and I had a stepson, and I was gonna. I had to take orders again, PCS out. My two oldest were the youngest was in her last year of school, so I was looking for orders, and of course, they wanted me to go to the West Coast, and I was not going to make my new husband choose between myself and my stepson. So they wouldn't work with me on let me stay in Virginia. So I dropped my retirement paperwork, and so I did not have a plan. So we had our beautiful retirement ceremony. I was on terminal leave, and lo and behold, this job popped open. It was for a recovery care coordinator to work with wounded sailors over at Navy Expeditionary Combat Command. And I went to interview, and of course, I went right back into my world of Navy people. So I slid right into that job. But again, it was sheer luck. It was no planning. It was no roadmap for success story. It was none of those things. It was just literally right place, right time, right opportunity. And so I did that for 3 years, and it was amazing. It was wonderful. I was a government contractor, and we set up this program. We worked disability claims. We started taking care of all our NECC old senior chiefs, retired senior chiefs, master chiefs, retired officers. We started taking care of all their claims. They were all come back with great disability numbers. I mean, we were like ecstatic. We were like, "Oh, we got another 100%! High five!" And so it was just the best job you can have from transitioning, because you stayed within your community and you took care of your community. You just put on civilian clothes, but I felt like I was still part of the team. I didn't feel any different. So I guess that was my transition, was going from active duty, wearing civilian clothes, but maintaining that relationship with the community. And it gave me an opportunity to really transition at that point. So I had a pre-transition, if you will.
Yeah, like a soft landing.
Yes, yes. And in retrospect, I wish I'd stayed there because, but the contracts and just not knowing when the contracts were going to come and go, and Wounded Warrior kind of absorbed that program, and so it was just kind of getting a little sticky there. But I had 3 years to transition over, so I didn't have the plan, and I didn't have the I had that cushion that somehow I fell into. So it was amazing. So another great opportunity there, and cannot tell you enough about them. It was just the best. It was rewarding.
You gotta love that. That's what this is.
Yes.
And this conversation definitely has been very rewarding. I love to hear a beautiful story about military service, and then how you were able to move out of that service into still serving. And a lot
Right.
of times when I see veterans that are struggling and they ask me questions like, I don't know what to do, what should I do? I
Hmm.
tell them, help another veteran.
Yes.
Find some way to serve, to get a part of the community, because this is what worked for me, like
Hmm.
directly. I mean, within a couple years of me being out of the military, I was nearly homeless. My husband and I had split up. I was about 2 weeks away. I had no job. I had been laid off. My husband chose that time to do things, and
Hmm.
the marriage had to end. And also the building we had been living in sold out from under us, and we had new owners, and they were like, "Hey, you got this amount of time to vacate."
Hmm.
Like, and we've been
Hmm.
living there for years, right? So it was like a perfect storm of things that
Yeah.
happened in my life, a very, very low point. But from that, again, girlfriends came through, helped. I ended up getting a job because I was a veteran. There was a time in my life where I had to remove being a veteran off my resume.
Hmm.
Um, After 9/11, I was able to put it back on and at the top. Right? So there's that. But this period of my life was a little bit rocky.
Hmm.
And I had gotten this job because I was a veteran, right? They appreciated my skill set, and that's what kind of turned my life around. But during that point, when my life started to turn around, is when I started to help. veterans. Like, I started to manifest interactions with veterans, especially there was social media was new then. I think it was like MySpace or something. And
Mhm.
maybe Facebook was starting shortly after that. But I started to like meet people, or I would meet them in passing. And I had just been learning about all my veterans benefits and getting them and how to get them and how to use my GI Bill and how to all of these
Yes.
things. And so I would meet other veterans in passing, and we'd get to talking because that's what veterans do. And then I'd find out they didn't know something I knew. And
Right.
so I would help them. And little by little, that made me feel better. Long
Yes.
story short.
Therapeutic.
Hmm. So I kept doing that my whole life until I started doing this. That was the lead in to this,
Mhm.
because as social media grew, I kept meeting veterans on there, even if it was just like a conversation we had in that day on a platform and it never went any further. Right.
Mhm.
Or I'd see someone post on Facebook, someone I went to school with or something I knew served, that they were feeling low and that they were like thinking about the worst. And I
Mhm.
just jump into that conversation, right? And offer, my advice, which is go help veterans. You're feeling low, go get some camaraderie and support.
Yes.
I joined the American Legion. I'm a big supporter of that. Like, find places that it's not for everyone. It depends on your legion, whether how comfortable or happy you'll feel, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Because I definitely have had some guests that felt less comfortable than they did. I can't remember if it was the VFW or the Legion, that they were, as women, feeling a little bit less
Right.
comfortable. But I always felt very comfortable and welcomed. And so that was an important phase in my life of being very active with the Legion. Just different things to help me, because sometimes it's hard,
It
and you
is.
miss the camaraderie and you go through rough moments. So that's my advice for veterans all the time. Um, but what advice would you have for the veterans, our veteran sisters coming up behind you? Because are definitely a trailblazer. So,
Well, I
what would
appreciate
you
that.
share?
So I would definitely say to them, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Trust your instincts. Trust yourself. Um, support each other. We can't do it all by ourselves. So I've had, I appreciate all the sisterhood I've had along the years, helping me through the toughest moments, the down part, the depressions and things like that, and fix each other's crowns. If you notice your girlfriend's crown's a little crooked, just kind of fix it, put it back up there, and give her a big hug, and just let's just respect each other and take care of each other. It's that simple. And just to add on to what you were saying about veterans, I think joining, volunteering, there's so much out there. There's the DAV, Wounded Warrior, Canines for Warriors. There's a slew of different agencies out there that you can get involved, be a part of, and feel good about yourself. So I would definitely say do not lose your connection with the military. I've not always said, oh yes, I'm a veteran every day, like you. At times I kind of really downplayed it, and even though it's a huge part of my life, but I realized that that's not the right answer. It's more to say, I am a veteran, and how can I help you, and thank you for your service, and what can I do for you? And that's where I thrive the most, I think. And just seeing somebody just light up because you're talking to them and they're being seen, so they feel great about themselves and you feel great. It's a win-win, right? So that's what I would say.
That's amazing advice. Really beautiful. And actually, you have been giving advice throughout this entire episode. So that's a good way to top it all off. I mean, I feel like, and I hope that there are people who will refer this podcast
Mhm.
to young women who are considering, that's one of the reasons I created it, for young women who are considering a career in the military so that they can hear the stories of real women who served. I think yours is a
Amazing.
beautiful, inspiring one, because they're not always happy stories that I hear, but I love when they are. And I love this story, and I love how you talked about earning respect and working hard and going the extra mile and being willing to volunteer. And these are the things I told my son when he started his first job. And these are the things
Mhm.
I would want every young woman who's considering going into the military to think about for their career, to go in there with that attitude of like, I'm going to earn respect.
Mhm.
I'm going to also keep my beautiful feminine energy and my nurturing,
Yes.
but I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to show everyone how that I'm a star, that I'm how amazing I am, right? And that's
Very
how you'll
true.
survive. That's how you'll thrive in the
Mhm.
military. Don't be afraid to study hard, to work hard, to show up and look for the good leadership. Um, so often there's not. So
Mm.
often I did not have I did not have a mentor like I would have liked to have a mentor, but in retrospect, how I that's how I thought when I was younger. But in retrospect, I had an extraordinary commander. Shout out to Commander Hirsch in the pharmacy. I had a wonderful HM1, Melinda Scruggs, who was very hard on me, but
Mhm.
I won her over in the end.
There you
And she
go.
became someone I truly admired because she cared. Even though I didn't always like her approach, she cared. And she was an
Mhm.
extraordinary leader in the pharmacy. And there were just so many people that were there that I saw, even the civilian pharmacists like Dell, and then there was Lieutenant Baker. But like all of these people that I worked with, and the pharmacy was my favorite place to work. Like it was of all the places. And I had great jobs, but like the
Mhm.
pharmacy was like where my heart was. It was a passion of mine. And the only reason that I didn't become a pharmacist out of the military and I went corporate was because I thought it was unfair. This is my soapbox, that as a naval veteran who worked in the pharmacy doing everything a pharmacist did for 3 years and received a letter of commendation from her command should not be able to take a national certification and work in a pharmacy and would have to go to college and get a
Mm.
degree and waste time and money to get an education I'd already received by the government, which should be the
That's right.
highest level of
That's right.
education, right? So
Yes,
I
I
rebelled
agree.
against that.
And I totally understand what you're saying. That makes perfectly good sense. You were a pharmacist on active duty. Why
Mhm.
can't you transition that over?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes no sense. And I will continue to shout that out until someone hears it that can make policy changes. So, but anyway, I really, really appreciate you. And I love your heart for service and how you really navigated your 22-year career, and made a beautiful life for yourself, and then became that good leadership and that mentor for other women coming behind you and men coming behind
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
So, and it's extraordinary because it's sometimes difficult to be a leader of men while serving
That's
in the
very true.
military. And the fact that you nailed that is beautiful. And now you transitioned out of the military into service, and from serving others, I think that must be your passion, because your company that you've created, LG2, is still serving people and
Correct.
veterans
Yes.
and
Yes.
elderly and helping them. So I would like to give a shout out to your company and have you
Thank
explain to
you.
me like exactly what it is you do,
Oh,
and everyone else.
absolutely. Oh, thank you. So basically, my husband is a GC, general contractor, back in Virginia, and we moved here to Florida after COVID, and he was semi-retired. So we started renovating our home here in Florida, and a lot of the neighbors came over and they wanted things done at their houses, and I was in a moment of my career, and I went into federal service right after I transitioned, and I really it was a cushy job. It was great pay. It was remote work, and but I felt like there was still something missing. And so we talked about it, and he decided to come out of retirement, and we decided to form LG2 Services. So we're a handyman service. We do remodeling. We do a lot of, we're trying to focus in on the veteran community. It's huge here in Jacksonville, Florida. So we're trying to work with people like Builders Care. They do a lot of the ramps. So they're a nonprofit. So it seems like we're just finding the nonprofits and kind of partnering with them, and they're looking for people to help them with all these jobs. And so it's kind of like a twofold company. One is the general contracting side of it, and the other side of it is trying to also work with veterans on resources, like you talked about. Um, so we've worked with Wounded Warrior, we've worked with City of Jacksonville. Everyone has great resources, but your average veteran is not going to find them. And I've been working mostly with Vietnam vets, so they're older, they're not computer savvy. So we're trying to brainstorm a way to use some of these nonprofits, and if we can create a database of some sort where if they're looking for a service here in Jacksonville, or they're getting ready to move, or their kids are up north, and they're trying to figure out how to help their mom and dad that are down here in Florida. So we're trying to try to bring all the different arms together. The VA has great resources as well. The VSO. DAV, all those different organizations, but how do you trek through all that? How do you figure everything out? So that's kind of where we're coming in and trying to pull it all together, the resources, and being able to get out there and put those grab bars in the shower and give them a safer surface to walk on, or help them get their mobility chairs and things of that nature. So fixing the house, making it safe, but also getting them the resources and helping them live age in place in their home with dignity, because we're all going to get there, right?
Mhm.
And so if we start that path and understanding, sometimes all they want to do is have conversations. I have one gentleman I go over every so often, and we just talk, and I help him with some paperwork, but I think he just wants to talk, you know. He just lost his wife, and he's going through a really tough time. He has severe PTSD. um, just keeping his company, you know, is it speaks it's so rewarding. I can't tell you how fulfilled I feel in doing what we do. So and hopefully we'll continue to do this for a while. We're fairly new. We just started about a month and a half ago, and we're hopefully by next year we'll be able to bring some of our dreams to reality and make it a little bit better, you know, for the next generation.
That is beautiful. And I
Thank you.
think when we join the military, whether we join for the GI Bill like I did, or
Mhm.
to see the world, or to learn a new skill, or to escape a bad environment, like whatever your reason was for joining, underneath that is a heart to serve,
Mhm.
right?
Very
You may
true.
not even
Mhm.
realize it yet. But and I think continuing service after coming out really feeds us. And what you're doing is extraordinary. I have absolutely got to connect you with Lynn Geyser from Hope for Veterans. If you have not connected with that organization yet, it's one that you should connect with. So I'm definitely going to do that.
Thank you.
I think you will be both benefit each other so well. So I that and she's there in Florida. I
Okay.
used to live in Florida, which is why I am on the board for that organization,
Okay.
and they do extraordinary things for women in the area
That's
with
awesome.
all sorts of aid, assistance, and workshops, and all of these things, which I think you might want to get involved with, and your company can link up with, and they can be one of your resources and you one of theirs. So
Absolutely.
I love when a good mutually beneficial relationship comes together. And so I want to see
Yes.
that happen. I want to thank you so much for being a guest. And I just need to know, where can we follow your story, your journey, your company? Like, how can we connect with you?
Okay, so we're on Facebook, and we are also on Instagram, and my website is LG2services.com. And we're trying to build up our social media. As you know, it's so hard to maintain and keep all the different layers. But we're building, and we're partnering, and we're out networking, and we're out just trying to bring awareness mostly. To the communities, and to other people want to help, they just don't know how to. So just making that awareness, and that availability is important. So that's it.
Extraordinary. Well, everybody knows by now, or if you don't know by now, that information is in the show notes, the description of this episode. So all you have to do is scroll down, and below where you read what this episode has been about is all of Lisa's contact information. So
Thank
you can
you.
go and support her organization, which you should. So again, I can't believe it's been almost an hour and a half. I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Female Veterans Podcast. I really appreciate you. And it's been such a pleasure to hear your story.
Thank you so much, Kia. It's been awesome. I really appreciate what you do.
Well, I'm going to put you back in the green room. I'll wrap up the show and I'll see you in just a second.
Okay, sounds good.
She is extraordinary, a pioneer, and just so inspiring. And I hope you felt as inspired as I did from her story, and you will go and support her organization. As for me, you know, I'm at the point of the show where I just want to thank you for coming on this journey with me. It has been an amazing journey, and I have been sort of this year dealing with a lot of like health issues. You know, I'm a disabled vet and stuff with my family. And so I haven't been as present, but I am coming back. And so I want to thank you for your support. If you would like to support this podcast, you can support it. My Venmo information is in the description box below. Help keep the lights and cameras running on this podcast. Again, please support the Female Veterans Podcast on social media, as well as here's all of that information, as well as the Giordano Foundation and Hope for Veterans. And definitely check out Mental Health Code if you are struggling, you want resources that way. And well, I think it's an important moment for me to say something really important, because as a veteran of the United States, there's a lot happening in this country right now. And I just want to encourage you to remember that we all want the same thing. We do. We want to be safe, and we want to be happy, and we want to thrive, and we want to live in a country that is um, a safe space for us to raise our families and thrive economically. And I just want to encourage you to remember that. Um, we got to just love each other and accept each other and continue to support each other during these times, because they're crazy. And I don't think I could come on this podcast and be legit after my last episode with Lauren and not speak to the space that I am at right now. And that is, we need to be purple. We need to all come together. We need to, especially if you're a veteran and you're listening to this, we are first and foremost brothers and sisters. United we stand. Just remember, united we stand, divided we fall. We have other problems other than each other. We need to stick together and remember that as a nation, we need to work together, and remember that there are other nations that we need to remember, that we need to keep ourselves safe and work together so that when other external threats appear, we're united enough to face them. So that's my soapbox for today. Technically, that's my second one, but I had to say something. Just, we got to love each other. We got to do better. We got to support each other. We have to remember that united we stand. Okay. And as always, speaking of love, I love you guys. And I'll be back very soon with a new episode. I hope you like these live video ones. They do well on Instagram. So, go and follow me on Instagram. Okay. And I will talk to you next time.